Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to cross the Øresund once again and go back to Denmark, and we're having a look at a collaboration beer today between two very well respected Danish craft breweries. One of them very new on the scene, but both of these breweries have featured on the channel before and I've enjoyed the beers that I've had from them, so curious to see what happens when you put them together. For the home brewery then we are going to go to Copenhagen and we're having a look at my second beer from Slowburn Brewing Co. This particular beer is called the Feedback Loop. It comes in at 8% ABV and it's a New England Double IPA brewed in collaboration with Bad Seed Brewing, who come from just outside of Aalborg over on the Danish mainland, Øland. So yeah, this one should be really interesting. So this is also my first New England IPA that I've had from Slowburn Brewing. The other beer that I reviewed from these guys was the Shoulder of Giants, the West Coast IPA, and I also tasted the Octopils as well in Bar, which is the bar of Kiosk, where I bought this beer actually. But I wasn't able to get a can of Octopils this time when I was in Kiosk, so fingers crossed for next time. That's a really nice lager beer that I would love to review. And in terms of Bad Seed, I think this is review number 4, maybe 5, involving this brewery actually. I did 1 or 2 collaborations from Bad Seed before, then I reviewed 2 beers from them, which were their own beers, the Good Morning Vietnam, which is their Vietnamese coffee stout. I also reviewed the You Want It Darker, which was a black IPA. I can't remember if it's an imperial one or not, but a very nice black IPA nonetheless. So this is my first ever IPA from Bad Seed Brewing as well. So interesting review on a couple of counts, this one I think. So really curious, as I said, to see how this beer turns out, and I hope that you guys enjoy it as well. It's always nice to do the Danish beers because they are such high quality, and there's a good few new breweries popping up over there that are doing some really interesting stuff. So yeah, I always keep an eye out for certain breweries when I head over there. But yeah, looking forward to this one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. As always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Slowburn Brewing Cooperative and from Bad Seed Brewing. You will no doubt see more added to those lists at some point in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly because of how close I am to Denmark, and I go over there every so often of course and get some goodies. But yeah, as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about the breweries there, and we'll start off with Slowburn Brewing since these guys are the home brew. And as I said to you before, these guys are pretty new on the scene. So Slowburn Brewing are based in Hvidovre, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, to the southwest of Copenhagen, and the company was founded very recently back in 2018 by Amalie Knage, Stefano Areni and Andrew Keaton. And as you might guess from the names, it's a pretty multinational team. So they've all got various different experiences actually. So Amalie worked at Brewed, which is one of the Mikkeller bars, and also at Kiosk, where this beer was bought, a beer shop that I really recommend you check out in Copenhagen if you find yourself there. But she also started one of the first kombucha breweries in Copenhagen called Hvidovre Kombucha, and then through that she gradually moved into home brewing beer. But now she assists in the brewing side at the company, and she also manages the sales and distribution as well. Stefano is the head brewer. He's originally from Milan in Italy, and he studied biotechnology before going to work for Birrificio Rurale in Italy, before moving to Denmark to work for White Labs Yeast, who are quite a prominent company actually within the craft beer industry. And he also worked for the Fermentoren beer bar as well, which isn't too far away from Kiosk and Warpigs. That whole district of Copenhagen close to the train station actually is a bit of a kind of craft beer gem if you like, so do go and check out some of the places around there. Kiosk, Bar, you know, you've got the Mikkeller bars on Victoria Gata. You've got a hell of a lot You've got a hell of a lot of craft beer places in that area, so definitely worth checking out, as I said. The third member of the team, though, is Andrew. He's originally from the US, and he moved to Copenhagen back in 2010 when the Nordic beer scene was really just in its infancy. There wasn't really a lot going on then at all, actually. But he comes from a background in software engineering and development, and he deals with the finance and social media side of the brewery, but he also experiments a little bit with sour beers and barrel aging as well. So they've got a whole kind of blend of different skills in there, which is pretty interesting. But over the last little while, they've basically been kind of growing their clientele in Copenhagen and further afield in Denmark. I'm not sure if these beers have made it outside of Denmark yet. I think probably the only way you maybe get these would be through like Glassbanken or something like that, but I can't remember if I've seen Slowburn through Glassbanken actually. But they are still a fairly small scale operation, but they have been pretty prolific in their output. As of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 30 different kinds of beer, which is pretty impressive when you consider they've only been operational maybe about about 18 months, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe closer to 20 months actually, I think, because these guys, I'm sure their first beers came out in very late 2018, but don't quote me on that, they might have been out a little bit earlier than that. But yeah, very, very nice brewery in my experience, this one. This is going to be my third beer that I've tasted from these guys, and the two that I've had previously, the Octopils, which I want to review very soon, and also the Shoulders of Giants, those have both been nice, so curious to try my first New England from these guys too. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Slowburn Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about them, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all of the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go to the other brewery then. Let's go to Bad Seed Brewing from Øland. So Bad Seed Brewing, as I've told you before, were founded in 2015 by Fredrik Hector Schmidt. So he'd been working in a beer store in Aalborg called Ølkonsortiet. And he became very good friends with a guy that was homebrewing, and he just began to join in and just kind of gradually learned his trade. But he continued to experiment, and they joined a homebrewing community together, and later he moved to Copenhagen and took an internship at Nørrebro Bryghus, and he worked for a few other breweries as well before starting up Bad Seed Brewing for himself. He started brewing at Ølkollektivet, which is where Ølsnedkeren, Gamma and Dry and Bitter all brew their beers. And he was doing this initially as a sort of phantom gypsy brewery, whatever you want to call it. There's so many terms for that these days. But he was doing this and also working as a bar manager. He was working as a bar manager at Brewers Inc. as well, from what I understand, at the same time. But they released their first IPA, which was called the Lazarus IPA, and these days they've got their own brewery just outside of Aalborg in Denmark, which is kind of right up on the northern tip of the mainland, if I remember correctly, and they've been there since October of 2018. Over the last few years, they've just been kind of gradually upping their capacity with more tanks and things, from what I understand, building up their clientele, as a lot of breweries are doing, and as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 65 different kinds of beer, which is a pretty good rate of return. That's about, about 12 or so different beers every year when you think about it. So yeah, pretty cool to see that these guys kind of move. It's cool that they started off in Copenhagen. I remember hearing about this brewery, but it wasn't until very recently that I was able to do a kind of dedicated review to them. So yeah, pretty cool to finally be able to do those. As I said, it was the Good Morning Vietnam coffee stout that I had, and also the You Want It Darker, which was their black IPA, and both of those were very nice. So I do need to see about getting something from the lighter end of the spectrum for my next dedicated Bad Seed review. So yeah, another very nice brewery from Denmark. There's lots of really good stuff over there these days, as I would hope you would gather from the channel. I always enjoy reviewing the Danish beers. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about them in terms of history. So if you want to learn more about this company, you can check out the brewery website again. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer then. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. So you can see it is really nicely decorated. This one quite similar. I do like the style of artwork that these guys have. I'm not sure. It says that the artwork is done by the Rabotnik cooperative there, so that is pretty cool. You can see on the side of the can there as well, there are the symbols both for Bad Seed and for Slowburn Brewing. But yeah, the artwork again, very, very nice. It's kind of like a sort of kaleidoscope of hop flowers actually, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, I like that about this. But yeah, like I said to you, this particular beer is called the Feedback Loop. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is a double New England IPA from what I gather. So yeah, this one should be quite nice, although it does say here, I might be wrong in telling you that it's a New England one, it doesn't say that it has wheat or oats in it, so maybe I've been telling you lies. I thought this one was a New England. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting here. So I believe I paid something in the region of, what did I pay? I think I paid about 50 Danish kroners or something for this. So yeah, it should be really nice. Incidentally, the hops in this one are Simcoe, Citra, Mosaic and El Dorado. So it should come out really nicely. I think we've got most of the beer in there, but this one actually does look a little bit more like it's a West Coaster, to be honest with you. So yeah, I maybe told you lies at the start of the video, so my apologies for that. This does definitely look a little bit more like a kind of West Coasty leaning IPA, this one. So yeah, if we put the light through that, you can see it's a really quite nice bright yellow colour there. You can see there was about a quarter finger of a head it's just faded away to be a very, very thin kind of foamy layer on the top of the beer there. And I would say it was more of a kind of creamy colour rather than anything else. But one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. You can see if I put my fingers behind the glass there, there is a degree of haze to this one. But yeah, it does look pretty damn nice, but definitely looks more akin to a West Coast IPA rather than anything else. But I can tell you something, the fruity notes that come out of this are pretty damn nice actually. So let's have a closer look at that aroma and see how we get on. Nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. So yeah, let's have a look at this now. Yeah, this is a big kind of juicy fruity beast. I mean, when you open this up, it comes across as very kind of very zesty actually. I probably would have thought, if I was doing this blind without knowing the hops, I would have maybe thought there was a bit of cashmere or something in this, because it does come across as almost slightly limey in some of its aromas. It's almost like it's got a bit of the lime sort of pungency, but then it's got these lovely soft tropical notes behind it. So yeah, as we know, the hops that are in this one, Citra, we all know this is quite mangoey, lots of kind of tropically fruit complexities. Mosaic is kind of tangerine-y, orangey. Simcoe is, you know, quite a soft passion fruity note you get out of that normally, but you also, with El Dorado, that's an interesting one that you don't see used too often, but I have noticed it's starting to come back in a little bit. El Dorado is kind of a sort of stone fruity hop, you know, peaches, kind of passion fruits and all these kind of things, a few softer tropical notes out of it. So yeah, this one I think will be interesting for El Dorado. The other hops we're quite, you know, very familiar with, generally speaking. But yeah, the aroma from this beer is really pretty damn nice actually. So on the malty side of things, you can see that this one, it does have a good little bit of, it's got a good little bit of a kind of bready base to it, like a sort of white bready kind of thing. There's a wee bit of a slightly sweet caramelly note to this one, but it does come across as mainly a kind of sort of McVitie's digestive biscuity oil type thing that comes out of this beer. It's got a nice it's got a nice sort of oily, slightly boozy character to it in that way, so you can smell a wee bit of the booze in this one, just through that sort of sweet McVitie's digestive biscuity thing that I'm talking about. But yeah, it doesn't quite smell as kind of thick and bready and creamy and things as you're going to get from a New England IPA, so I am pretty certain I might have told you a lie at the start of the video with this one. It could be one of these beers that's a little bit like a hybrid between the New England and the West Coast actually, because there's a few breweries doing that kind of thing just now. But yeah, the malty side of it is pretty straight up, you know, kind of pale malty base. There is a little bit of a kind of thicker white bready note in the aroma as well. The McVitie's digestive biscuity thing that I was talking about, maybe a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original type sweetness to it as well. But yeah, malt base is pretty straight shooting on this one. On the hoppy side of things then, the green side of the hops, for me there's a little touch of earthiness to it. That'll be the Mosaic giving you that. The green side of the hops mainly is quite floral, though I find this one is the floral and grassiness. The floral qualities and the grassiness are quite well balanced. The grassiness has a good bit of zest to it, which I quite like. That really has given the beer a very kind of, that's maybe why I would have thought cashmere, if I was saying earlier, I would have thought cashmere if I was blind smelling this one. But yeah, the aroma out of this one is really nice. But yeah, quite grassy and quite zesty. Good little bit of floral character coming out of it as well. But you've also got some really nice juicy fruity notes out of this. So let's have a closer look at the fruity side of the beer just now and see what we get out of that. So yeah, on the fruity side of things, you do get a bit of that stronger passion fruit there. That'll be coming from the Citra, from the Eldorado, and from the Simcoe in that. So yeah, you will notice this one does have a good little bit of that passion fruity backbone. But other than that, when you move, you know, if you come a bit further forward on the nose, I think you get a little bit of you do get a little bit of a kind of more you do get a bit of mango from the Citra, obviously, but you do get a few kind of lighter tropical notes. I don't get the kind of peachy sharpness that you might get, but there is a little bit of a kind of pineapple-y, and there is a good bit of a kind of sort of pineapple-y note to this one as well. I think it's just got a bit of that soft pineapple-y kind of thing. But yeah, this beer, it really does come across as quite citrusy leaning at the same time. There's a good bit of that grassy, lemony, citrusy zest coming out of it, which is interesting when you consider the hops. All of these hops, of course, are very high alpha acid, but they still give you these lovely, quite a few of them will give you the lovely kind of tropically notes as well. So yeah, it's just interesting to see how this one's going to play out in terms of aroma. You do get a good bit of a kind of tangerine orange from this one. The orangey tangerine notes come out is quite zesty again, so you've got that lovely kind of brightness to it in that regard as well. So yeah, the fruitiness of this beer, the way that goes together is really interesting. I do like that about this beer. So yeah, for me, nice, lovely. It's got a good balance between the kind of citrusy zest and also the kind of juicy tropical fruits coming out of this one. So yeah, this is really nicely balanced. I think good bit of passion fruit backbone, like some of the other kind of tropical fruits in there, a bit of mango, a little bit of pineapple, maybe a wee bit of, like, you know, papayas and stuff like that underneath, but you can't detect that too much in the aroma. I think nice bit of a kind of oily, orangey, tangerine note from the mosaic in this one, and then you've got a good little bit of a grassy kind of zest coming out of this one too. So yeah, this one really comes across quite nicely actually. So yeah, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it, but we're going to have a taste of this beer now and see how we get on. So this one is the Feedback Loop, and a double IPA coming in at 8% ABV, brewed by Slowburn Brewing Co in Hvidovre, just to the southwest of Copenhagen, and brewed in collaboration with Bad Seed Brewing just outside of Aalborg on Øland over in Denmark. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. Oh yeah, it's pretty solid, that actually. Yeah, it's leaning towards the West Coast side of things, definitely, but it does have almost a wee bit of the kind of smoothness of the New Englands at the same time. I guess, you know, some people might just call this a modern IPA. I have seen people calling this the kind of modern IPA, so it is kind of somewhere, it's got a lot of West Coasty character to it, let's say that, but there is just one or two wee elements. There are just one or two wee elements, I should say, of New England character to it. So yeah, I like that about this one. It's got a bit more bitterness to it though, this one, which is quite nice. It's a bit of bitterness, it's got a lovely bit of kind of bitter zestiness to it. So let's get the rest of that in there and see how we go. You can see there was a wee touch of sediment to this one because it's been in the fridge a little bit. So yeah, this one is pretty nice. I'll say straight away, this gets a thumbs up from me. It does almost remind me a little bit, it almost feels a little bit like the kind of big brother of the Shoulders of Giants that I had from Slowburn before. So yeah, let's try and break this flavour down a little bit then. The more you drink of it, the slightly sweeter it gets in the middle of the palate too. So yeah, let's focus on the malty side of things first then. So straight away with this beer you get a nice little bit of a pale malty quality. That blankets the middle of your palate. towards the back of the tongue there, on that back third of the tongue, you can feel the sort of breadiness just kind of thickens up a little bit. It feels a little bit thicker towards the back of the palate there. You get one or two little grainy elements towards the very back of the tongue, but yeah, mainly it feels like this is it actually feels like quite a light base to this one, which is interesting. It does feel as if it might be just a kind of straight up pale malt base with a few other smaller things kind of put in there. So yeah, if you go to the very centre of your palate, you can feel there is a good little bit of a sweet caramel to this one. It does have, when you move out from that centre thing, it does become a little bit more McVitie's, like that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing that I was talking about, a little bit more sort of grainy and things there. So that is quite nice as well. But the kind of middle third of your palate actually feels very, very crisp in terms of the malty character. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is maybe a wee, could there be a wee touch of Pilsner malt or something in this, because when you go towards the back of the palate there, you do get a little bit of that kind of, you do get just a little bit of that kind of crisp quality that you sometimes expect. I know for a period of time, a lot of brewers were putting just a little touch of Pilsner malt in their beers just to make them feel a little bit crisp. And it's quite, I wouldn't, you know, the weird thing about that is that this is a double IPA. You wouldn't expect people to do that with a double IPA, but there's just something about this beer that makes me wonder, is there a wee bit of just a wee touch of Pilsner malt in this one? Something like that. It could well just be a level of bitterness that this one has actually, because it is just a very minimal kind of crisp sort of thing. The way that Pilsner malt kind of jumps off the palate almost, I'm just getting a wee bit of that kind of vibe from this beer in the back third of my tongue, which is interesting. I'm probably talking rubbish and saying that they're using Pilsner malt in this, but you know, it's just something that came to mind actually with the feel of this beer. But yeah, the malt base in this one strikes me as being very kind of straight up, so I would bet it's pale malt and a couple of things, maybe a little bit of carapils or something like that that's in here, because it's got a wee bit of that stronger caramel in the middle of the palate. Then otherwise it's kind of got a bit more of an oily biscuity sort of thing. But yeah, in terms of the hoppy side of things, then back corners of the palate there is a good little bit of earthiness there. The earthiness has a bit of darkness to it, which is a kind of feature of the mosaic in my experience. But yeah, as you move further forward along the sides of the palate here, it smoothens out a little bit, but then you get some really nice bitey kind of floral aromatic notes out of this one. It does have a little bit of a kind of piney dankness to it as well. I do remember El Dorado was supposed to be a little bit kind of dank and resinous. All the other ones I think are a little bit more kind of sort of floral and spicy almost, and you get a good blend of that. This beer does have a little bit more bitterness to it, which is quite nice. It does have just a wee touch more. It's not going to blow the face off you in terms of IBUs, but it does have that wee bit more kind of a wee bit more bitterness to it, which is a nice kind of touch. But yeah, nice little bit of kind of. I'd say that this one it's more floral. I don't think there's so much in the way of a piney resin. There's a little touch of that underneath, but I think it's quite a floral beer in that sense. But then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more. It's a little bit lighter and more kind of grassy on the front curve of the palate there, but the grassiness does have a little touch of zestiness to it at the same time. But yeah, on that front third of the tongue then, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters push their way out of the beer. And yeah, if you move towards the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a little bit of that slightly more pungent passion fruit out of it, but very quickly the passion fruit sort of softens up. And I do remember, El Dorado at the same time being quite soft in the kind of tropical fruits notes as well. So it's not surprising with me that the passion fruit notes do kind of soften up as you move further forward, because you've got a wee bit more from the, as I say, you've got a little bit more of the just that kind of juicier thing. The Simcoe and the El Dorado are a little bit kind of softer in their fruity characters than the likes of Citra is actually. So that's an interesting point to make about this one. So yeah, you do get a wee bit. You almost maybe get a little touch of grapefruit out of this one as well at the very back of that front third of your tongue. So a wee touch of grapefruit, then the passion fruit comes out and it's still got a bit of pungency, but then it softens up a wee bit and becomes a juicier passion fruit. Then you're getting a wee bit of the mangoes from the Citra there, and as you move further forward from that, there's maybe a few kind of very slightly, I don't want to say pineapple, I want to say more like a kind of papaya note. You do get a bit of papaya out of this one. But then on the very kind of front sixth of your tongue, if you like, almost on the very kind of tip of the front of the palate there, you're getting a sort of oily, a wee oily part of the tongue that is more kind of tangerine and orange, and that's the mosaic that's coming out of this one. It's definitely the mosaic that's giving you the orangey side of things. And yeah, that's quite nice. The mosaic-y, orangey kind of notes really linger there, and that orangey, tangerine orange thing, that gives you quite a bit of zest as well, and then you've got the grassy kind of almost lemony zesty notes coming out of the grassy part of on the tip of the very tongue as well. So very tip of the tongue. Can't speak in this review. It's annoying when that happens. But yeah, it's really nice how that all kind of fits together. So for me, it makes a really nice transition with the fruits. Darker, kind of more pungent tropical notes, then it gets a bit lighter and a bit softer, then you get the oily kind of orangey notes, then it's a bit zesty on the very tip of the tongue. So the front third of your palate, I think, is where the biggest level of complexity is in this beer, but that suits it, that suits it. It's a little bit old school, this one. I do like how the fruity characters come out in this one. It does have a wee bit of a more oily note to it, which is a bit more West Coasty, as I said. The malt base, it does have one or two little New Englandy notes towards the back of the palate, but mainly, again, it's quite smooth and also more West Coasty leaning. And the hoppiness, as I say, is more kind of floral and dank and things like that. So really, this beer is probably about 90% West Coast, 10% New England, if that. It really is more of a West Coasty type IPA, this one, in my mind, but it's really nicely done, and it has a little bit of a kind of nostalgia factor to it because of the hops that are used here. I mean, Mosaic is probably I don't know if it's Mosaic or Eldorado that would be the newest one, but certainly Citra and Simcoe have been around. Eldorado, I remember seeing that, you know, back in the early days of Brewdog, so Eldorado has been kicking around a little bit, and I think Mosaic did come a little bit later than that, or it gained popularity a little bit later than that. So yeah, that's a really nice. It's a really nice combination of things that's going on in this one. So if you want a good old school West Coast double IPA, this one is very close to that. Very close. Maybe not quite as sweet and brown sugary and things, but yeah, another awesome beer from both Bad Seed and from Slowburn. In terms of the mouthfeel, then this one is yeah, pretty mid-bodied. The carbonation's really smooth. It's got a bit of an oily character to it as well, which is really nice. So, you know, kind of more classic-y West Coast type mouthfeel. In terms of the hoppy bitterness, I think this one's about 50. Again, I think this is just the fact, you know, people these days are not used to the kind of sort of the 80, 90 IBU bitterness beers. I think this one, it could maybe be 60 IBUs at a push, this, to be honest. 60 would be the kind of maximum, I would think, for this. So maybe about 60 IBUs with this at a push. But yeah, it's got a good little bit of bitterness to it, which is nice. You've got a nice kind of smooth malt base, which has got a little touch of sweetness in the middle of the palate as well. It's got a kind of the oiliness of the oily features of the mouthfeel really help bring that out, and then you've got some nice oily fruity characters to it as well, but a wee bit of juiciness. And the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, it does feel a little bit more kind of dank and bitter. You've got the oily fruity characters in there as well, and you've also got the kind of smooth malty quality to it as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, thumbs up to both Bad Seed and Slowburn from this one. Two very well respected Danish breweries, as I said, and I think this has been a really solid beer, this one. So as I said, about 90% West Coast, 10% New England in my mind, but I've really enjoyed reviewing this one for you, so let's leave it at that. So yeah, this one was the Feedback Loop, an 8% double IPA, definitely more West Coasty than New England, as I said at the start of the video, but yeah, really enjoyed this one, and I would recommend that you check it out for yourself. Try anything you can from these breweries. As I said, Slowburn have the Octo Pills, which is really solid. They've got the Shoulders of Giants, which I know is a very good West Coast IPA. They've got various New Englands as well, so I need to see about reviewing one of those for you at some point soon. Bad Seed I've had dark beers from and been very impressed with, but I guess I'll need to see if I can get a hold of one of their regular IPAs or a lager or something like that. Something from the light end of the spectrum has to be the next port of call for Bad Seed Brewing, and hopefully maybe we can get both of these guys to do a Meet the Brewery at some point. That would be that would definitely be two interesting videos to make, actually. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Feedback Loop 8% IPA from Slowburn Brewing Company in Hvidovre near Copenhagen, and Bad Seed Brewing Co just outside of Aalborg over on Øland in Denmark as well. So really nice Danish collaboration, this one. I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this beer. As always, let me know your own thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Slowburn and from Bad Seed. I thank you again for watching my reviews. Check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very soon. Until the next time, Slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål. Make sure you check out Bad Seed and Slowburn Brewing Company from Denmark. Cheers.